Today I'm going to speak about consciousness and life after death. Why is it that we need to awaken? We all die anyway. That was a question I received recently and made me laugh. Is it that you're still awakened after death and in the next lifetimes and in eternity? Continued the question. Every human being is consciousness manifesting as a temporary form, taking on a form as what we perceive as a human being. So the human being itself is a manifestation of consciousness, and ultimately there is nothing else than consciousness. If you have ever sat next to someone who has died or was in the process of dying, as I did my father, you realize that it's a very sacred moment when their soul surrenders their body. First of all, it's a very interesting process, the slow transition where the body is inhabited by the field of consciousness known as their self, and then slowly transitions out of that, seems to evaporate. And when you look at the body, you don't really recognize who you knew. We're all ultimately invisible. And what you see of another person is relatively insignificant and not destined to survive. But that which is deeper within the person, let's call it a spark of consciousness, actually does survive, because you are the consciousness that inhabits your form. And your consciousness is actually related to the larger consciousness of the whole cosmos. There is only one consciousness, okay? Some people call it God, some people call it the Logos. You are a ray that emanates from that central consciousness. In your body, you appear separate, but actually you are linked to this greater being of consciousness. So your ego disappears. Your self disappears, and what happens when someone dies is that it returns to the source in the same way that a bee kind of returns to the beehive and returns what it has collected. And every human is just a part of that greater consciousness here incarnated, learning and growing and assimilating lessons and essence, and it returns to the source after death. So your growth in consciousness contributes to the greater consciousness. Universal consciousness, or God, is an evolving being actually, and enters this dimension through beings like yourself, out of sheer curiosity and growth. So you can say that consciousness is developing and remembering through you and me in our experience here on earth. So who you are in your essence survives and transcends death. But when you die as an ego from this lifetime, this is called dying before you die. And that means that you already have awakened to the fact that you can never really die. When you die before you die, you can sense that you are connected to the universal consciousness, and you know that you're never actually going to die. Of course, your body dissolves. What your level of consciousness throughout your life is actually an important factor in what happens after that. For example, Plato wrote about life after death, and the Buddhists also write about this. And I want to also share with you a very interesting concept of Nietzsche. So if you stay tuned a little, I will go into a little more detail. Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, did discuss the concept of reincarnation, although his views on the matter were not entirely consistent throughout his writings. In some of his dialogues, particularly in Phaedrus, Meno, and Phaedo, Plato presents the idea of the soul's immortality and its potential for reincarnation. According to Plato, the soul is immortal and exists before and after the body. He believed that the soul is eternal and has knowledge that is innate, but it becomes obscured and forgotten when the soul is incarnated into a physical body. Plato viewed that body as a temporary vessel for the soul, which is in a continuous cycle of rebirth. In the dialogue Phaedrus, Plato introduces the concept of the cycle of necessity, or the wheel of rebirth. He suggests that souls are punished or rewarded based on their actions in previous lives, and they undergo a series of reincarnations until they achieve a state of wisdom and purity. The ultimate goal for the soul, according to Plato, is to break free from the cycle of rebirth and to reach a state of divine existence. In the Meno, Plato explores the idea of recollection, suggesting that learning is not the acquisition of new knowledge, but the recollection of what the soul already knows from its previous existence. This concept implies that the soul has encountered knowledge in past lives and carries it forward over into the current life. However, it is important to note that not all of Plato's dialogues emphasize reincarnation, and he also has had a more complex metaphysical framework that involved multiple levels of reality and forms. Reincarnation was just one aspect of his broader philosophical system. Overall, Plato's views on reincarnation suggest he believes in the pre-existence and immortality of the soul, and he proposed that the soul goes through a cycle of rebirths until it achieves its ultimate purpose. Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher, did not specifically address the concept of reincarnation in the traditional sense. However, I wanted to bring his ideas here into my video because I think he has a very original concept which he calls amor fati, which translates into the love of fate. Nietzsche's concept of eternal reoccurrence suggests that all events and actions in the universe reoccur indefinitely. He presents it as a thought experiment, imagining a daemon that approaches us and says that we must relive our lives exactly as we have lived them, with every joy and sorrow over and over again for eternity. Nietzsche's question is whether we would affirm and embrace this idea or reject it. The concept of the eternal reoccurrence serves as a test of one's attitude towards life. Nietzsche argues that those who can embrace the eternal reoccurrence with a sense of affirmation and love for their fate are the ones who have achieved a state of greatness. They are willing to accept and affirm every aspect of their lives, including the painful and challenging moments, as an essential part of their existence. Of course, this is very much in line with Stoic teachings, and many people have related amor fati with Stoicism. The idea of amor fati, or love of one's fate, goes hand in hand with the eternal reoccurrence. Nietzsche encourages individuals to not only accept their fate, but to embrace it wholeheartedly. He suggests that instead of longing for a different past or a different set of circumstances, we should love and affirm everything that has happened and will ever happen in our lives. While Nietzsche's perspective does not align directly with the traditional notion of reincarnation, His concepts of eternal reoccurrence and amor fati explore the idea of embracing and affirming the totality of our existence, including the repetitive nature of our actions and the acceptance of our predetermined fate. Sort of like shedding a romantic light on whatever is happening to us, to see it like a filmmaker, to embrace the character as if from above, as if you have a helicopter view of your life, the view from above, and view it as one big film where the hero has to undergo and has undergone many challenges and even trauma, and their greatness lies in trying to make amends and get closure and to heal and overcome. I mean, that's what we love in the heroes of a film, is it not? Now, in Buddhism, the belief in reincarnation, known as rebirth or samsara, is a central concept. According to Buddhist teachings, the cycle of rebirth is an ongoing process in which individuals are born, die, and are reborn again in various forms based on their actions and the state of their consciousness. In Buddhism, the understanding of rebirth is closely tied with the concept of karma, which is the law of cause and effect. The actions, intentions, and mental states of an individual, known as karma, shape their future experiences and determine the nature of their next rebirth. Positive actions lead to favorable rebirths, while negative actions lead to unfavorable rebirths. Of course, one can say that this was a self-serving intention of the aristocracy and wealthy class in order to keep the untouchables in that lowly position. To say, well, you deserve to be an untouchable, a slave in this lifetime because you were really bad in a past life. But you don't have to view it in such limited terms. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is to attain liberation from the cycle of rebirth and suffering. This liberation is known as nirvana or enlightenment. It is believed that through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, which includes ethical conduct, meditation, and wisdom, individuals can break free from the cycle of rebirth and achieve liberation. The key for me is to achieve liberation every moment of our life, to actually become immortal through our everyday actions and thoughts, not to wait until death, but to have a death within our life. In other words, to die or do away with all those parts of our ego which are not serving us, which are not filled with love, peace, and tranquility, and consciousness. So you can actually be reborn within this lifetime if you so choose to do so. This is my personal path. I choose to be free at every moment, to be reborn as a different person and claim a different and new attitude once new evidence is presented to me. So for me, rebirth is all about freedom in the present moment. How do you feel about rebirth and death? What are your thoughts about that? Please go ahead and share your comments.
Like, comment, and share these videos with as many friends as possible.
And you're welcome to support the production of these guided meditations through becoming a patron. You become a patron, you can also have more say as to what types of meditations I upload. Is that you get to listen to these guided meditations without any advertisement interruptions.